Okay. My name is Bly Shepherd, and I'm a prof in counseling psychology. And I'm here today to present on two different programs that we have, both in counseling. And this is Kevin Mattis, and he's does the admin side, so he'll answer any financial questions, etc. So we've been around for over 30 years and in the Faculty of Education. So we have a good record. We have two, as I said, two pathways. One's the Master of Counseling, and the other is the Master of Education. So the Master of Counseling, the next intake for it is in December 2017, so only a few months from now, where the Master of Education, we just had an intake. Our next one will be in 2019. So I'm going to explain the difference between the two pathways to see which one is a better fit for you. So if you're a graduate of the program, either program, it certainly prepares you with all the coursework and practicum hours that you need to become a member of the Canadian Counselling and Psychotherapy Association, and you're able to get your Canadian Certified Counselor designation. Now, it is an association, meaning that it does not regulate in the same way that a college does. You can also become part of the Alberta Registered Psychologist through the College of Alberta Psychologists. Now that is the CAP, as it's known, is a regulatory college, meaning that it's there for protection of the public and has a lot more legal say in what you do as a practitioner. So there's quite a bit of a difference between the two, and I'll explain that a bit more as we go along. So we have a cohort model. Everybody comes in at the same time and take the same courses. There are a few electives, but other than that, you know, you move together through the program. We could talk a little bit about the Master of Counseling because sometimes people do get out of sync, but generally you're with the same people. And so there's a lot of community building, getting to know each other and working together in groups, small groups, doing presentations together, etc. So we have a good support for you in terms of entrance awards. It's about $120,000 that we are giving out to the new MEd and MC students. And you can also apply for a graduate assistantship, which allows you to work with faculty, get some research experience, and further support your studies, get opportunities. My graduate assistant is going with me to a conference and going to be doing a presentation with me and is co-writing a journal article. So different opportunities depending on who you work with. So I said that there were two pathways. One is the Master of Counseling pathway, and the other is the MEd. So I'm going to start with the Master of Counseling. This is a 3-year program. It's offered every other year, so 2017, so you would be starting in May of 2018, and then the next intake would be 2020, I guess, the start. Before you do start actual courses, because it's an online, well, it's a blended program, we do offer an online orientation for you. And that orientation lasts about 4 weeks, and you learn things like writing, you know, how to write at a graduate level, how to be an online student if that's new to you, what the expectations are of faculty, and how to work together as a community and support each other through a 3-year program. So it's considered a part-time program, and as I said, it's blended. There's a mix of online and face-to-face. I believe the last time I counted, it really depended on what electives you choose. So it's about 39% of your program is face-to-face, so it's not, you're not completely on your own out there. So in the blended delivery, the face-to-face components tend to happen in the summer. It's intense, over 2 weeks in July each year. And then there are also practicum seminar weekends, one per practicum, and they're about 3 to 4 days long, and they're in your last year of your program. So you have to be prepared to come to campus no matter where you are and take part in the 3 to 4 days of intense work again. The fall and spring courses are online. The faculty are quite active in interacting with you. I teach, like in January, I'll be teaching 3 online courses, so I'm on every day with you, responding to you, interacting, and encouraging you to contact me by phone or email so we can set up a teleconference. Most summer courses commence online prior to the Summer Institute, so in May and June, you'll have some online work, and then you come together here on campus in July. And the details are on the website. So the Master of Counseling program is course-based. There are 12 courses, including the 2 practica courses, and there is a culminating activity. The big difference I see between the MC program and the MEd program is that there is no thesis in the MC program. So if your long-term goal is to get a PhD, this isn't the program that you should be taking. You need to take the other one, the MEd. Okay, this one offers you the opportunity to do an applied project or to do a professional portfolio, which is basically developing your website and having what we call an e-portfolio, which is great for launching yourself as a professional out into the community. And it's done in a very sequential way, and so even if you don't know anything about building websites, you will. Okay, everybody gets through it just fine. This program, the Master Counseling, sort of is aimed at perhaps a different population than the MEd. The MC program is looking for people who have a lot of volunteer experience already, have some experience out in the world. Often they're slightly older than the MEds, but not always. I'm making generalizations here. So they come from a variety of backgrounds, much more variety. And so it makes for a really unique cohort because everybody brings different pieces of experience from their life, their work life, into the cohort. So we've had people who have a social work background, people from child and youth, people who have a psych degree and have been working out in the field in some capacity, people from education, of course, working in school systems but wanting to transition more into becoming a counselor. The Master Counseling is a fairly expensive program at $19,000, and that includes your program fees and course tuition for the 12 courses. There are extra fees that are involved, including of course, the cost of textbooks and other university fees. So it is, a more pricey option. The benefit of this program, I would say, is that just about all the members of the cohort are working. So they're working and at the same time. It's more difficult in the MEd to do that because you're taking 4 courses at a time and it's pretty intense. Here you're taking typically, in the May to July, am I getting that right? 2 courses. But for the fall term and the spring term, what we call spring here, January to April, I don't know who came up with that, you're taking 1 course. So people are working as teachers or, working out in their community, doing whatever they've done. They haven't given that up. They might have cut back a bit on the number of hours, but they're able to kind of support themselves better in going through the program. The MEd, okay, this is the one that takes place on campus. It's a 2-year program, and that's why I say it's pretty intense. The intakes are every other year. It starts in July, and this is the recommended route if you want a PhD. If you're planning on going on, this is the one you want, because there is a thesis option in this program. So for the first year, 13 months, you'll complete your courses on campus. Year 2 is really dedicated to the practica. Now, you may be taking other electives, but basically your focus is on gaining that experience that's going to lead you into becoming registered as a psychologist. These are online courses during your second year, and so they can be completed while doing your practicum. Yep. The degree requirements, course-based, 16 courses, including your practicum courses, and you will have noted that there's an on-campus requirement. It's about once a month on campus where you bring your cases that you're working on with your clients and do a lot of debriefing, getting feedback from the faculty members and from your cohort. There are more options in the MEd program. There's a capstone, which adds one more course to your program, making it 17 courses. There's a project, which is 6 credit units, which would mean that that would be 2 more credits. So now you'd be up to 18 courses. And then your thesis, which is 12 credit hours, which would make you up to about, I guess 20, right? 20, equivalent to 20 courses. So you can see you've got some options, and you don't have to declare when you come into the program. You don't have to say, I'm doing this route or that route. That can kind of unfold as you're going along. And you decide, what are your strengths? What do you want to get out of the program? What's important? The capstone is really good for those wanting to just get out there and practice. It's really a long paper that you write. It's about 50 pages on something of interest to you. The project takes a bit longer, and it's usually applied. And again, I find it often a good way to give back to your practicum placement. So people have done things like made handbooks for groups, made manuals, that type of thing. Very applied, but useful for whatever practicum you were in. It doesn't have to be tied to your practicum, but often is. And then the thesis is your typical kind of research route that you're taking. The cost of the program is about $12,000. This includes your program fees and tuition fees for the 16-course program and capstone. Now, if you're planning on doing a project or a thesis, then you're going to obviously have to pay more fees on top. And textbooks, and et cetera, are extra. So these are quite competitive programs. For the MC, last year we had 120? Around 120 applications. What we do is we shortlist down to about 40, 36 to 40. We interview all those people, and then out of that, we take in around 20, 22 people. Okay, so it is competitive. Do you know the numbers for the MEd?
About 60.
60, okay. So you can see what the application deadline is. It's coming up fast, and Kevin can answer a lot of those type of questions around what you need to do to apply. So what are we looking for? Well, we want you to have a bachelor's degree. Doesn't have to be from U of L, okay, but something equivalent. A GPA of about 3.0 or above, based on a 4.0 scale. Now, obviously, the GPA does play a fairly significant role. So we're looking at the last 20 university graded courses, and we go down. We don't just look at GPA, but typically people, if you're down close to 3.0, you might want to do something to kind of get your GPA up a little bit more, just because it is so competitive. We'll also look for about 2 years of work experience in the field, not in counseling, but just volunteer experience. Things like some people have worked in aftercare facilities. Other people have worked, trying to think, in group homes, as an example, or at a women's center. There's a variety of things. And again, Kevin can be helpful in answering, like, is this a good background in order to apply? We also like you to have some courses in psychology, Just because the program is based, we're assuming a certain core knowledge. So that's really helpful to have. And then, of course, the English language if required. And what we do when we're going through the applications, as the faculty have kind of a rating sheet. GPA is certainly one of the things, but we also look at that work experience. We look at how many psych courses you have, and we give you kind of a grade or a ranking. And that's how we figure out when we're having to shortlist. Particularly true in the MC program because there's so many to go through. We're looking for transcripts, contact information for 3 individuals. Make sure that 1 is academic and 2 are professional references. And by that we mean not your parents. We've had that happen. It's not a professional reference. And for some of you, if you've been out for a while, getting that academic reference can be really tricky. I know that was a problem for me because I came back as a very mature student and I found that was, people had seen me, but that was like 15 years ago. So what I did is I took a course just before, while I was applying and got that person to write me a reference. So you have to be a bit creative if you're older. And the professional references, like somebody that's working with you and the volunteer, especially if you can get a supervisor. And think about, could they come and watch you do some work? That will make it even stronger, right? So try and make sure whoever is giving you those references, we pay a lot of attention to them. Make sure that they're going to indeed say that you're wonderful and give you some specific instances of why you're good at whatever you do. The letter of intent is another piece that's very, very important. We look at it in terms of, can you write? Can you give us some really good information about why you're interested in the program? Can you find that balance between being too self-disclosing and not disclosing enough? So you've got to find a kind of a medium, like, why am I interested? We don't need to hear about your traumatic history, okay? You might mention that you've been through a lot, but don't go through all the details because we tend to go, whoop, nope, and put that to the side. Field experience form for the Master of Counselling. I think it's fairly easy to fill out, but again, we're looking, especially for the Master of Counselling because it's so applied, we want to make sure that you've got something you can draw on, that you're not just a recent grad. MEd is really good if you're a recent grad because it's much more research-based. This one is drawing on the experiences you've already had in the field. And then, of course, the English language scores. And then if you have questions about applying, here he is. You'll get to know him well. And the costs on, well, kind of a comparison between the MEd and the MC. You can see that there's a cost comparison, but there's also a time comparison. So you have to kind of think about your own situation, your own context. Where are you in your life, right? And what's doable for you? Many of our MC students have young children, and so they're staying at home and they're working around their kids doing whatever they're doing and doing their programs so that when their kids are ready to go to school, so is mom or dad ready to go to back into the work. So a thesis option for the MEd as well. That's a big difference. And that's where you can find program information. The other component I referred to at the beginning was you can become a CCC, Canadian Certified Counselor, through an association, and that is not a problem for anyone coming through the program. That gives you some legitimacy out there in the community, especially in Alberta. It's really recognized a lot more across Canada. It's also something you could apply for while you're getting registered as a psychologist, because when you finish your program, no matter whether it's MEd or MC, you still have a lot more to do in order to become registered as a psychologist. So it's often serves as kind of a stopgap, and you can get insurance, for instance, through the CCC. Yeah, so as you can see, there's additional training that you're going to have to go through, more practicum hours, well, except it'll be called internship hours, an ethics exam, an oral exam, and then there's what they call the EPPP, so a written exam. Questions? And here, Kevin can, usually they're more your area, but we'll see.
So can you go back to your explanation on the difference between capstone projects and thesis?
Sure, yeah. A capstone is like a 50-page paper on something that might be of great interest to you, like the importance of using play therapy or the use of expressive arts in therapy. Where the project tends to be more applied in the sense that it'll have a literature review at the beginning, but then it will have something that's very like a manual or handbook or lesson plans as the appendix, and that's actually forms the major part of your project. But it is supported by literature and research. And then the thesis is your typical kind of, you go out, you find participants and you do interviews or collect data in some way, and then you write that up. And it's a longer process and a little bit more complicated because you have to have a committee. Your project, you have two people. The first person is your supervisor. The other person is kind of more like a reader, a committee member, but does the final reading and has some input throughout, but is basically there to make sure it's good quality. The capstone is like a class, only it's done by distance. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah. It does, thank you.
Okay. Oh.
They mentioned earlier in one of the other sessions about finding a supervisor. Are you required to find a supervisor for the Master's in Counseling?
No.
No.
No. We actually encourage you to have a whole term, like the fall term, do your research course, and then as you're doing that, ideas start to form, and then when you do go to approach faculty, you've got something pretty solid. Mm-hmm.
A supervisor is not required for admission to the program.
No.
What it is for the Masters of Education?
No.
They're cohort-based, so you're with a cohort, right? And so it's course-based.
Yeah, you don't need that. A lot of people will email me asking if I'll be the supervisor, and I haven't met them. We want to get to know you first. And then you can also decide, are we a good fit, you know? So it works on both sides.
You said it was competitive, and Mr. Matos referred to the number 60.
60 applicants for 20 spots.
In the Masters of Education?
Yes.
But the Masters of Counseling tends to have more applicants?
100 to 120 applications for 20 seats.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if the committee that reviews the applications is very strict, or are they flexible on the individuals that you select for your references? Because I know we have to have one academic and two professional. But what would that entail? Like for academic, could you ask a program supervisor, a program advisor? Would it have to be someone that taught you in university undergrad?
It's helpful to have somebody who's taught you because they can speak to your academic ability. So if you can find someone. If not, then yes.
And if you're having difficulty finding a reference from your undergraduate that you completed a postgraduate certificate or diploma, could you access someone like that? Would you consider
Yes.
available?
Yeah. That's what I would really suggest. That's what I did. Yeah. Anybody else?
When is the application deadline for the Masters of Counseling?
Both of them are December 1st.
Both December 1st.
Mhm.
Yep.
But there's no MEd this year. I should say that when you're applying for the MEd, if you're applying for the MEd, and it will start in 2019, it is our new expanded program. Quite excited about. It's going to be longer, but it also has a variety of courses that we think are really important. Child and youth, families and couples are two additions. We also have a stats course and a test methodology course. So for people going on for PhD, those will be two really good courses to take. So, yeah, we'll be rolling that accredited program. It won't be accredited at the time, but we're going for national accreditation of the program. So in 2019, we'll be rolling it out, seeing how it goes, and then applying after the 2 years, see how it went, and seeing if we can get it accredited. So there's only, I think at this point, 4 nationally accredited master's programs in Canada. So we're hoping to get on the list. Yeah. Anything
In
else?
practice, you didn't really mention about the differences between the master counseling and the master education.
Not really. Yeah, there's not, in practice, not a difference. Although some people out in the community do get confused. They think if you have an MEd that you're a school counselor. That is not the case. You could be a school counselor from the MC or the MEd, and we take all sorts of people that aren't going into the school system. It just happens. It's a kind of a historical thing that counseling programs are in the Faculty of Education. It started out way back when, where it was around career and school counseling. That's what it was about. So they thought that education was the best place to put it, and so it's remained there. But now it's expanded to mental health and beyond. But in practice, no difference. The big difference between the MEd is the ability to go on and get a PhD. MC, we haven't never, that I know of, had somebody from the MC go on for a PhD.
There might be one.
It might be. I'm not sure about her. I was probably thinking the same person. Yeah. So it's not, it would be a much more difficult route, because I think you'd have to do a lot of makeup and get some research experience and the things that they look for in doing a PhD. So, any other questions? Well, you know who to contact. Okay. Thank you for coming today.